Hey, how's it going? So today we're going to play some games with Great Tusk MAL. Now I tried a couple different lists throughout this, and I did end up liking the list that Azul posted on his channel the best. All that I did was change a Cornerstone Ogerpon for a third Super Rod, because I was running into a lot of situations where all I needed to find was a Super Rod to basically keep milling every turn, and I wouldn't be able to find it. So I did that. So Great Tusk is a basic Pokemon with 140 hit points that for 2 colorless, you mill the top card of your opponent's deck, but if you played an Ancient Supporter, you mill 4 cards instead. And we're not ever going to do the second attack, but it is 2 fighting double colorless for 160. And we are only playing Sadas in here because Explorer's Guidance sucks. So we're just trying to get to Sada every turn with the 2 Tatsugiri, the 4 Trekking Shoes. We have 4 Earthen Vessels to thin out the deck, draw with Greninja, get our energy into the discard pile. We're playing Survival Brace to try to live an extra turn, because that's like how we're going to win games, is by getting 2 mills with the same Great Tusk. We have Hand Trimmer to lower our opponent's hand before they can Iona themselves to 1 and put all the cards back into their deck. And yeah, just 4 Pal Pad to put Sadas back, 4 Counter Catcher for disruption. It's pretty solid, a lot of fun, but let's get into the games. So we're up against Raging Bolt here, and I was choosing to go first with this deck. I figure you have better odds of attacking on your second turn if you go first, and I don't think you're very likely to attack on the first turn going second. Just because all these ancient decks where you're relying on Sada to start attacking, I don't know, it's just really hard. You got to get Greninja and an energy and your Pokemon and one of your 4 Sadas. Where if I was playing the Explorer's Guidance version still, I might go second with this, because you're playing double colorless energies. It's a little bit easier to get into them, but that deck was ending up just being really bricky for me, and I played probably like 10 or 15 games, basically lost all of them. The ones that I won were not because the deck was doing well, it was just pure luck. My opponent just left the computer or whatever, or just played the game really poorly. But because I was like losing to Raging Bolts, and decks like this should be a pretty solid matchup. They mill through a lot of their deck. You have Mimikyu to try and force them to get into their Sandy Shocks, and then once they have that down, you can keep counter catching it back up and force them to get 2 energy to retreat it, and to get 2 energy they need a Sada, so that's 4 more cards coming out of their deck. It should be a good matchup. You should only have to mill like a few times to end up winning the game. They do Prime Catcher my Mawile, which is unfortunate that they had to use that to get an attack off, because they probably wanted to knock out Mimikyu, because now I'm just going to Counter Catcher back up their guy. And I have to attach the Survival Brace to Mimikyu, which is not really what I wanted to do. I would rather attach that to a Great Tusk, but this does buy us an extra turn. I was also originally playing a different A-Spec. Oh, Secret Box. I was playing Secret Box, which I also like that card. In the deck, it seemed pretty good. I think you could switch that out for Survival Brace, but I think I overestimated the amount of vacuums that were in the format, because I was considering Survival Brace, but I figured every deck had access to a vacuum and they would just save it for that turn. But you can try and get them to vacuum away one of your ancient booster capsules first and then attach the brace, or if they vacuum the brace, some decks won't be able to one-shot the 200 hit point Great Tusk, so it does end up working out pretty good. Ancient Box, or not Ancient Box, Secret Box is pretty good in this deck though, because it is extra discard, and sometimes that's the main problem, is not being able to discard energies. Oh, and I do Pokestop there first because I have a Pal Pad in my hand, so if I mill, and I have Pal Pad and Supporter, so I don't care what I mill, and I just wanted to be able to get something off of Trekking Shoes to at least stay in the game. And maybe I should grab a, what's it called, a Tatsugiri here, but then if they bump my Artazon, I'm in a pretty rough spot. Now I at least have an out to top deck a Sada, or if Artazon stays in play, I can just switch cart into a Tatsugiri and hard retreat it if need be. And their jamming tower is gone too, so I guess that doesn't really matter at this point actually. Never mind, I take it back. It would be cool if you could play the Roseanne's backup, I think it's called, in this deck too, but since you need to Sada every turn, you don't really have time to play that. There are some turns where you can Eri, but it really, most of the time it doesn't feel great. Like if you get Eri and Hand Trimmer, that's like the ultimate combo, I think. That's kind of what I was looking for in a lot of matchups. It was hard to get to, but at the end of the game you usually can. I'm really hoping to get an energy or a switch off of the Sada, and I do get the switch, and I can attach. I think I probably should attach to have a retreat option next turn. That does get rid of my hand attachment for my Great Tusk next turn, but I kind of need to be able to retreat, and I think it gives me more outs ultimately to get out of the active. We did mill the boss, which is nice, because they can't boss up my Tatsugiri and knock it out with the Sandy Shocks. I would have loved to have my Hand Trimmer to make them discard cards from that huge hand they just had. Even if I could find it next turn, that would be really nice. That card was pretty good when I could find it in time, because they're probably going to Iono next turn. Or the turn after. They kind of need to do it next turn, because I just win if I can get the mill this turn. They actually needed to do it that turn. That's funny. I wonder why they didn't do that. Maybe they couldn't attack. I don't know. What can you do, right? So we just need to hit a thing off of this, and of course we don't, because this game hates me. I kind of need to retreat, I think, and save my Tatsugiri. It's really important to even let me do anything next turn. It's kind of unfortunate. I'm kind of struggling here with what I'm gonna do, and now they're gonna Iono now, which really sucks, and that puts the game pretty far out of grasp for us. Like, they're energy retrievaling probably just to get extra cards in their hand to Iono back, or they don't have the Iono in their hand. It looks like you think they'd have access to every card in their deck in their hand, but maybe not. So that was just a really unfortunate whiff there. Like, I think I had pretty solid odds to hit a Sada off of that Tatsugiri, but I just didn't. Like, 4 in the deck, 26 card deck. You're seeing 6 cards. Yeah, you should see a Sada every time in, like, percentage wise, but that's not how it works in reality. So now we have to hope that they have to play an extra card out of their hand, I guess. Damn, I'm just like whiffing. The Tatsugiris were not kind to me today, but that is kind of how it goes online sometimes, where it just doesn't give you what you need sometimes. So I just Counter Catcher up the Sandy Shocks because it's the only Pokemon that doesn't have enough energy to retreat and can't knock me out with just an attachment. Like, all the Ogre-Pons could just retreat, the Raging Bolt could just attach and knock me out. So next turn I need a pretty weird or not a weird combination of cards, but I need Forest Seal Stone, I need Super Rod, and a Great Tusk and Forest. And I have Artazon and Rescue Board in my hand, so it really doesn't matter what they get rid of with this. But yeah, I really just need Super Rod and Sada. It's not a really weird combination, but I was playing only 2 Super Rods at this point, which was making it really hard to find them. I do top deck the Forest Seal Stone, so that is pretty lucky. And I could Nest Ball for Greninja and use the Greninja, but then I don't have the energy in my hand. And I whiffed the Tatsugiri. Like, I don't know, that just seems pretty unlikely to me. I would think I'd have pretty good odds to hit a Sada. Like, I hit it off of the Greninja, but not the Tatsugiri. And I do get pretty lucky with that draw there to get into both of the cards I need. And now I'm guaranteed, because I do still have the Forest in my hand. Yeah, see, there was 3 Sadas in my deck, and I was missing them off all the Tatsugiris. We do end up winning that game, even though we were pretty far behind at the beginning. But yeah, just whiffing all those Tatsugiris for Sadas was pretty frustrating, but on to the next game. Alright, we're up against Blissey this game. This is one of the only other decks that I was playing against so many Raging Bolts on the ladder the other day, and I think the only other games that I got that were against different decks were like I played against an Iron Thorns where I think the person had like decent odds to win the game, but then just conceded, which was really weird. I don't know. They judged themselves and then I milled and then they conceded. So maybe they just didn't have another double turbo in their hand or something. And then just like a lot of Raging Bull and a couple Chien Pao. And Chien Pao is another deck that like just mills itself so aggressively. Even more aggressively than Raging Bull. Alright, this decision right here ends up making the matchup really hard, but I get rid of the Great Tusk because I wanted to really just get a way to get the energy in the discard pile so I could draw with Sada. But I should have also used Attract Customers first. As you can see, it really wouldn't have mattered. I wouldn't have hit a Sada, but it would have rearranged my deck, I guess, technically. But I wouldn't have been able to thin the deck out at all. Now, this should be a decent matchup. I don't know, I feel like it depends on how many Lost Vacuums they play, really. Because with my booster capsules, they're not going to be able to knock me out. But they can also just leave all the rest of the cards in their deck. Like, they probably should have just not drawn with that attack. And they should have, well, they had to bench another Blissey. I guess that's where it gets weird, is when you can also threaten the attack with the Great Tusk, because now they're forced to put down a second Blissey, and now I can trap that in the active, which I draw all my counter catchers, which is kind of weird. But that Iono kind of ends up being really good for us, because now I'm able to get an energy on 2 different Great Tusks, which is really nice. You definitely want to get 2 Great Tusks built up. It just makes it a lot easier. Even though you do have to Sada every turn with this version of the deck, it still is nice to have the option to mill 1 or not find an energy attachment, or be able to use your energy to retreat your Tatsugiri instead of like finding a board or a Switch Cart, which I was having a lot of trouble finding in these games, it seemed like, but it ended up working out. This is the Farigiraf version. They did add a Rigid Band. That's definitely one card that I wanted to fit in my Blissey Farigiraf deck. That seemed pretty good, but it seemed so tight for space, and I was drawing such bricky hands with it that I wanted to add more consistency over just an option to maybe tank one time. But that's been like a lot of I've been having a lot of trouble with that on live. I feel like I'm playing like overly consistent deck lists because I'm drawing so bad sometimes, and I don't know if other people are experiencing the same thing. And it's like not the kind of like drawing bad because your deck is too consistent, if that makes sense, where like you have a million supporters and then all your supporters just draw into other supporters, so you're kind of bricking, but you're not, like you can't do anything because you already played your supporter for turn. Instead of like with Trekking Shoes and stuff, that's why I was liking this version a little better, because just more item based draw gets you through the deck quicker, gives you more options to keep drawing after supporter. But yeah, that's kind of been my experience on live lately. It's been kind of annoying, where some days I'll just draw nuts. That's a pretty good Eri though, because I hit the Super Rod, and I don't know if a deck like this would play more than 1 Super Rod, so that is pretty good. And I'm debating Pal Padding the Eri back in. I don't think there's really any reason to. That's another thing I was doing, is just kind of spamming Pal Pads as soon as I got them, because you really just want to keep Sadas flowing through your deck and increase your odds of getting one off Iono and stuff like that. Because now we're in a pretty good spot to win, unless they are able to like boss and Lost Vacuum. That is why I benched the Mimikyu, so that if they vacuumed away my booster capsule, I'd have a good target to send up. And then they'd have to find a way to switch and get into the Mew and move the energy over. See, this is where I would really love to have the other Great Tusk in the deck to be able to Sada to 2 Great Tusks, but I do choose to keep that energy in the discard pile, because that is another thing you can run into, is having Sadas but no energy in the discard pile, as you could see from my last turn. But I'm struggling to find the super rod right here. Like, it is in the deck. I do have 17 cards in the deck though, so I guess the odds of drawing it aren't the best in the world. And I keep hitting Ionos, which is pretty nice. So I think I have 2 or 3 in the discard pile now. So I can kind of hold this hand, and I think this is the turn that I Hand Trimmer, because they're gonna want to Iono after this turn. I'm gonna set them down to 7. They're gonna go to, or maybe they would wait a turn to Iono actually. Maybe I should wait a turn to Hand Trimmer. I'm just like counting my hand right here, trying to figure what's the best to get rid of. And I still don't draw a super rod with my Sada. Like, my deck is getting pretty low, and I've just not been finding the super rods, which is why I added the extra rod over the third switch cart, because like, as you can see, I don't need the switch cart in my hand at all, and it's just sitting there clogging my hand. Fourth Artazon could also be third rod, which maybe would be better, because switches are kind of always nice to have. I don't know, not too sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to play out my hand so that the Hand Trimmer hurts as little as possible. They get rid of a bunch of useless cards there, and I still wasn't sure what to get rid of, but I think those were fine enough options. They're clearly like smart enough to not bench stuff to get stuck in the active with Counter Catcher, and I only need one more Great Tusk to win the game is what I was thinking. So I didn't really need the Nest Ball. And Artazon, like, it seems like they play Artazon too, probably. I think they had a jamming station or whatever it's called as well. But I already discarded it, so I think that's staying in play. They do a pretty good play here, where they copy my attack with Mew to knock me out. I did not expect to be knocked out that turn, but they had the Turo, unfortunately. And now I would really love to find a super rod here. I prized my forest, which kind of sucks. And if I don't get into the cards that I need, I'm going to have to retreat to my Pidgeot, which is fine. It's good enough. Like, it'll tank a hit. Mew can't knock it out. Blissey can't knock it out. If they retreat into the Blissey, they're going to have hard times getting back into the Mew if I send my Mimikyu active. So it kind of works out, I guess. And they do just immediately genome hacking. I should have waited a couple turns for the Hand Trimmer. I miscalculated or misjudged when I would need it. And I just put back 2 Great Tusks here, because that is the most amount that I'll ever need, and I'm able to... Oh, that's why I got rid of a Nest Ball, because I can get both of them down. I do get the Survival Brace though, which is pretty good. That could buy me a turn. That could just win me the game. Because if I had to guess, next turn is when they're gonna Iono. So I just milled 2 though. That's nuts. Oh, I only hit 1 before. I misremembered this game. They're playing this pretty well though. It looks like they were holding on to the vacuum for that card specifically. And they do just bring up my Greninja, and I almost concede by accident, but Mew can still not attack Mimikyu. Like, it's still an EX Pokemon. I don't know why, like, I was thinking Greninja was I don't know. But now I just need to get into an energy or... Oh wow, I messed up. I should have Nest Balled for Pidgeot. That was really bad actually. Oh, that's embarrassing. That was such a simple mistake, but a lot of the cards in my deck were outs to retreat, so I do get into it. I think it was way better odds that I'm able to retreat than not able to retreat, but we do end up winning that one. That was kind of a close game. It was one of the better games I got, so I figured I'd use it, even though it's not necessarily against a meta deck. It was a deck that should kind of have a decent matchup against Great Tusk. I don't know, that's just what I was hitting for matchups, I guess. Yeah, so Great Tusk is fine. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely worth playing for fun, but it does have a really hard time into Guardy, which is one of the more popular decks. I think Lugia is probably also a pretty hard matchup. unless you can just mill like a ton of energy cards and get some, like keep counter catching. Lugia might be more winnable than I think, but if they play it right, it really shouldn't be winnable at all. I think though the rest of the decks are fine enough matchups. I'm trying to think of the other decks. Dragapult might be really hard. I don't know how fast they go through their deck, and they can knock you out every time, and they can pre-set up damage on the Great Tusk. I don't know, it doesn't have the greatest matchup spread, but decks like this can really beat anything if, like, especially if someone doesn't really know how to play the matchup. If you can force any deck to play the game enough where they're like drawing through a bunch of their cards, it's going to be a lot easier and make it so you can win unfavored matchups. That is why like the Mimikyu's in the deck, the Mawile's in the deck. Like the Mawile's a really good win condition because you can mill all, once you think you're through all your opponent's switching cards, you just bring up like Greninja or Manaphy or whatever they have in play that they can't attack with and stick it in the active. So yeah, I think this deck is definitely worth exploring a little more. From the games I played, this did seem to be like the best version, even though like you saw the games that didn't draw insanely good, but the other version, I just most of the time I didn't really get to play the game. And then you use Explorer's Guidance and you can only take 2 cards and you end up milling 4 cards that you need. So you have to play more copies of everything, which makes the deck a little like less consistent. Like more copies of Super Rod and stuff like that, which you don't necessarily want. But hope you guys enjoyed, and like or dislike and comment and subscribe, and have a good one.